She's lying about it being stolen. She was found out. And after failing to blame it on fraud, she launched a GoFundMe called Stephanie's Path to Accountability, Reformation, and Second Chance. No, your second chance was when you posted on Facebook. You didn't take accountability. You lied about it being stolen at that point. Anyway, now she says she deeply regrets a mistake she made. Well, it's two mistakes. Again, remember, you lied about it afterward. That's the second mistake. In a moment of frustration, she wrote something offensive on a restaurant receipt that she now realizes was hurtful and wrong. Since then, she has faced intense backlash, lost her job and real estate license, and had to remove herself from social media due to embarrassment and harassment. And so, that was the GoFundMe ended up being taken down. I doubt it was being all that successful. In its place, there is another GoFundMe though, called Tip Ricardo because hate has no place here, which has raised over $40,000 as of this morning. So that is great news. Now, that said, Trey, I was a waiter for many, many years.
Me too.
I don't like you stiffing someone because you don't like a policy. I don't like you insulting them or whatever. Again, when you get into the area of like people losing their jobs and stuff like that, that makes me more uncomfortable. I don't like that she lied about it afterward. Like that's doubling down on you being a bad person that way. But that said, I don't want your entire life to be ruined because you stiffed a waiter. I got stiffed. As a tip, I got like a dollar bill that's just like go to my church or whatever.
Absolutely.
I got that many times.
Yes.
It's happened. That said, I don't want those people to lose their life or whatever. But what do you make of this?
I mean, I agree with you completely. I was a server and bartender for like 5 years of my 20s. And I used to always think my radical position was that we should have like a law in this country that's like conscription into the military, except it's into like serving the public in some capacity.
I like it.
Every American should be forced to like work with the public for at least a year when they're young or something because of how awful so many people are to people that, like you said, have no control over policies or anything like that. I mean, yes, and I worked in a small-ish town with a cow college in the South, and so like Sunday, everybody dreaded Sundays because that was, church day, and everybody knew that was the worst shift to work because it was the work you're going to get Bibles as tips, and you're going to get judged for being there and all this stuff, and get insulted to your face, and people be mad because you don't have the honey butter that you've actually never had there, even though they swear they remember having it last time, and all that type of stuff. And and so I commiserate with this guy, but I agree with you. I'm glad she got some consequences and hopefully like learned a lesson, but I agree that like her entire life doesn't need to be ruined because of this, because hopefully you'd like to think people can learn and change and grow and whatnot. Yeah. So that would be the ideal outcome here. So yeah.
Okay, I like it. So we agree. Some consequences, but not the end of your life. Like it was a bad thing, but we don't know what was happening. Maybe something happened that day to her. So let's try to be understanding. Let's try to be understanding in the way that we want these people to be understanding.
Yes.
Anyway, that's just me. Well, that is unfortunately all the time we have. Trey, it was a pleasure to have you here. In the meantime, we know you have the big show coming up with Francesca, which we'll definitely promote. And Thursday, I want to let people know on the live show about the launch of your special.
Yes.
Where can people see that when it happens?
It's gonna be on 800 Pound Gorilla's YouTube channel. They do a lot of comedy specials. And it's called, if you just get on YouTube and search for Trash Daddy or for my name comedy special, you should be able to find it after it comes out this Thursday, the 13th.
I love it. Well, thank you as always for being here. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Pleasure's mine. It's good to be back.
Okay, be well. And everyone out there, thank you. Tomorrow, Big News Wednesday. Sharon Reed will be here. Hope to see you there as well. For now, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.
welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey, good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day. None other than Yasmin Aliya Khan. Always fascinating to have her breakdown. First story of the day, buyer's remorse, ladies and gentlemen. Federal worker who voted for Donald Trump loses her job. Jennifer Piggott is her name. Here it is.
Like, nobody that I've talked to understood the devastation that having this administration in office would do to our lives.
No kings, no tyrants, no kings, no tyrants.
The cuts have shaken up a community that overwhelmingly voted for Trump. He won West Virginia with 70% of the vote, one of his biggest victories. But the betrayal felt by Piggott, a church-going conservative and three-time Trump voter, comes as political analysts are examining early signs of a possible backlash in Republican strongholds like Parkersburg.
Put up the picture full mass. She wasn't just a voter. She was a vocal supporter. Her community overwhelmingly supported Trump. Her state supported Trump. And Trump told you what you wanted to hear. But see, as long as others were losing and you believed you were winning, you voted for him. As long as Black people, brown people, women, members of the LGBTQ community, if they seemed to be losing to you, you believed you were winning. But as I've said before, if you say nothing when they knock on your neighbor's door, there's nobody to say anything when they knock on yours. Well, thankfully, madam, you have indisputable and a few other people that give a damn about you, okay? All right, here we go. Jennifer Piggott, once again, was one of the 125 individuals laid off recently, fired from the U.S. Treasury Department. This is the Bureau of Fiscal Services in Parkersburg, West Virginia, according to Reuters. Nearly 4% of the state's workforce is or was employed by the federal government. Ms. Piggott says she would never vote for Trump again. Well, he told you that. He said, if you elect me this time, you won't have to vote again. It seems as if he's not looking for you all to vote for him again, as if he just doesn't want to go anywhere, possibly doing the dictator thing that we said that he may try to do. There's more. Elon Musk, unprecedented elimination of civil service jobs. About 30,000 workers have now been fired by Musk-led Department of Government Efficiency since mid-February. This will impact West Virginia more than most states, said West Virginia University economics professor John Deskins. Quote, if the federal layoffs happen, we stand to suffer a disproportionate. Isn't that interesting that the word disproportionate is now being used again? Disproportionate share when those jobs disappear, when that income disappears, when that spending leaves the state economy, Deskins told Reuters. And the job losses are just getting started. Another round of cuts has been ordered at all federal agencies for March 13th. Now, I have more to say on the matter. Now, if you remember, I said this happened. It's a domino effect because there's no economic crisis that's within a vacuum. You have individuals who are career employees. They have mortgages. They spend in the local economy. They support a family. They're supporting families that go to institutions. And that economic ecosystem has been disrupted. It has been disrupted in a serious way. But you have to wonder, what is the aim here? Donald Trump, while cutting all of these federal jobs under the direction of Elon Musk, the truly in charge oligarch, he is also increasing what you pay on basic goods and services. So you have your tariffs from Canada, you have your tariffs from Mexico. heavy tariffs from China. So what is he doing? This is an impossible economy to sustain. Everybody knows this. In the meantime, he's taking meetings in Mar-a-Lago, taking $1 million to $1 million to $5 million dinners with other millionaires. What is he doing? Why? Well, those are going to be the carve-outs in the future. You see, there will be carve-outs to the tariffs. The individuals who are spending money right now with Trump, telling Trump how he can carve out this and carve out that, and Trump telling them, well, how much money are you going to pay? And the rest will simply go into privatization. That's just my opinion of the move here. But you have to consider these individuals are trying to take it all, fundamentally transform every moment of our existence in the United States of America, not just a part of it. There's more. Cutting costs and waste and fraud. We love that big picture, said Miss Piggy, 47 years of age. I love that picture. We were excited about that because it is true. But voting for Trump again, voting for Elon Musk, essentially, to wreck people's lives, Pickett said, is something she said she just can't do. Finally, something hit you. It didn't take all of this. It should not have taken all of this in order for you to see the bigger picture, madam. The bigger picture is not cutting fraud and waste. The bigger picture is you are manipulated to believe that if 1 out of 100 individuals, if that one person is committing fraud and waste, you need to cut the whole program for the 99 who's doing it correctly. That is what you fail for. Even though Trump loyalists have proposed a constitutional change allowing the president to have a third term, as it stands now, Trump cannot be reelected president unless something wild happens. Pickett, who worked for the Bureau for 5 years, was recently promoted. Said most people assumed government workers knew this was coming. Quote, but we didn't, she said. Nobody that I've talked to understands the devastation that having this administration in office would do to our lives. Well, we did, and we tried to warn you. Put up the picture for Max. Recently, the Atlanta Black Star reported a Donald Trump voter was detained by ICE at gunpoint, and the internet shows him no mercy. You're looking at a Hispanic man from Virginia who voted for Donald Trump, found himself caught up in an administration crackdown of, quote, illegal immigration last week, with ICE agents detaining him at gunpoint despite being a naturalized American citizen. As it turned out, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents were actually searching for another man facing deportation. But for Mr. Jensi Machado, the man forced to pull over and prove his legal status, the damage had already been done. Mr. Machado said he believed that Trump would be focused on criminals, not each and every Hispanic person going about their daily life. That's what they're doing now, he told Telemundo's 44. And the reporter who broke this story did a remarkable job. They're just following Hispanic people, end quote, he said. Now, here we are. Here we are. This is what it looks like. This is what is happening now. This is the America that you're in. You are not good in the month of March yet. We just got here. He was just sworn in. Seems like he's been in for years, right? This kind of devastation, this extreme amount of heartlessness, targeting this group, targeting that group. He's targeting individuals who literally voted for him. He doesn't care. He doesn't give a damn. He's transforming this into an oligarch nation. That is the point. That's what he's trying to do. But you still have the power. You can stop this. Because as it stands today, you still have a democracy. While weakened, yes, you still have one. You kept playing with this notion of constitutional norms You forgave those who attempted to shred the Constitution and overturn the U.S. government, trying to stop a constitutionally mandated process called the transfer of power. You gave them refuge. You then became an apologist for the man who ordered it, and then turned around and put that man back in office. And what is he now giving you? He is giving you what he told you he was. A person who doesn't give a damn about your Constitution, about your religion, or about your Bible, or your evangelical views. He gives a damn about none of it. And now you're feeling it. We would prefer you to be allies, even if we simply agree on some basics here. For example, voting means there is no election that's final. We would like us to agree together on that, because the way he's running this country, he doesn't seem as if he's concerned about getting your vote again. That is dangerous. All right, Yasmin, thoughts here.
Yeah, I imagine that many people find it very difficult to have empathy or sympathy for people who were either entirely incapable of having any for anyone else, or were incapable of learning and listening to the things that we were trying to tell them all along. But they were totally fine with Trump's policies when they were affecting other people. They're only now waking up to how bad and dangerous and damaging his policies are now that they're affecting them directly. But while it is difficult for me and others to feel bad for people like this voter or like the Hispanic voter who was accosted by ICE, we need to have empathy for them. I need to. We at least need to be supportive of them. They are finally as angry as we are about what's been happening to these workers across the country and to minority groups across the country. It just took them a little longer to get to where we are, but that's the reality of being a progressive. People are going to take a minute to get on board with certain ideas because by definition, these ideas that progressives tend to espouse fall outside of the scope of the mainstream party messages. I just hope that now they understand that we have been fighting for them and their rights all along, even as they fought us on it. We're not happy about what's happened to these people either. We want, as we have always wanted, justice for these people and for them to be treated in a way that gives them some kind of dignity. There are plenty of Republican voters who genuinely believe that the work Elon Musk is doing with his Department of Government Efficiency is for the good of the country. They genuinely believe but their belief seems to be rooted in something that is actually bipartisan. No one likes government waste. No one likes inefficient spending, especially when the money that is being spent inefficiently is comprised of our tax dollars. But the difference between people who support Elon Musk and Doge and the people who don't is that the people who don't do not believe that what Elon is doing has anything to do with making the government more efficient. It is a facade, it's a farce, it's a disingenuous way to galvanize support behind something that will make life very, very difficult for so many Americans, even Americans who are not directly impacted by the layoffs. There will be downline impacts of these layoffs and department shutdowns. What will we do with all of these laid off workers? They don't have a plan for any of it, especially when the same government that's laying off these workers is trying to eradicate other social services and programs that might support these workers during this time because they rebranded those social services as handouts. The thing people need to understand is that nothing Trump or this administration does is with their best interest in mind. It is only ever with Trump's best interest in mind. He's not levying tariffs on our Canadian allies because he wants to bring jobs back to this country. He's actively eliminating jobs from our job market. He's levying tariffs because he's trying to tank the Canadian economy because Elon wants all of the minerals sitting underneath all of that Canadian ice. I hope that we see many more stories like this, but it is hard to gauge how widespread these feelings actually are. I hope they're very widespread. I hope people are starting to feel the impacts of this government and this administration. Perhaps we will see a tell of this during the midterm elections, but in the meantime, things will not be easy for so many American people.
That's right. And also in the meantime, Elon Musk somehow is increasing how much money he gets from the federal government while everybody else is losing. Yeah. All right, bring up updates as they come. A black male shot by the police following a traffic violation. This was a fatal shooting. It's difficult to watch. Here it is.
You have a driver's license with you?
What's the issue?
Well, you didn't use your signal back there, and I see why now. Is you have a light out on that left side. Completely. No big deal. Ain't nothing I'm gonna write you a ticket on, but you're gonna have to fix it though. You got any weapons or anything on you?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Just for my protection, I'm gonna pat you down real quick. Go ahead and turn around. Turn around.
Turn around.
Now turn around. I want to pat you down.
I can take stuff.
No. I want to pat you down. If you got no guns, is all I'm worried about.
No, I'm just not comfortable with people touching me.
Well, I hate it for you, but
Yeah,
my
I'm
safety is
good, but
paramount, okay? Be still. Put your hands on your back.
No, bro.
Put your hands on your back.
No. I'm
Fighting
not.
one. Fighting
I'm
one.
not.
Put your hands on
I'm
your back.
not.
I'm finna
I'm not.
tase you.
I'm not.
about to tase you.
I'm not.
Listen to me.
I'm not.
You're finna get tased.
I'm not. Not.
God damn it. Put it down. I'm gonna kill. God.
Then you hear the gunshots. I'm going to explain what happened. Put up the picture full mass. Mr. Otis French, fatally shot by Officer Brandon Thompson. The body-worn video from the officer-involved fatal shooting of the 32-year-old Mr. Otis French Jr. was made public on Friday. Mr. French was shot 5 times by Officer Brandon Thompson. This shooting took place on August 22nd, 2022. Once again, we're just getting the video. The Baldwin County Sheriff's Office refused to release the body cam footage because Alabama law does not require body camera video to be released to the public. But this one somehow made it to YouTube. An attorney representing the city released the following statement, quote, on Friday evening, the city became aware of a leak of the body camera footage involving Bay Minette officer Otis French Jr. Prior to the leak, only appropriate law enforcement officials, court officials, and the French family, as well as their attorneys, had access to it. This was done in acknowledgement of the sensitive nature of the video and to protect the investigation and related court proceedings. There's more. The statement continues, quote, it was also done to protect the officer involved from further threats to him and his family. The city sought to keep the video sealed with the U.S. District Court. That motion was heard by the court and it is still pending. While it is unfortunate that the video was released by an anonymous source, the city will continue to respect the process and proceedings in the federal court, and we will continue to defend the claims made against the city in the lawsuit. The city has no further comment on this issue at this time. And so the conservative legislature of Alabama some years ago, they passed a law that did not require the release of body cam footage, which is ironic because it is, in fact, contextualized as part of a public office. You have the right to that. Freedom of information, open records request. So they carved out a special rule just for law enforcement. And so when it's leaked, likely by one of their own, by the way, but when it's leaked, they decide to defend the position rather than talk about what we have seen. There's more. The officer activated his body cam when he pulled over Mr. French for failing to signal. The traffic stop seemed to be going smoothly. And the officer told French he would give him a warning for a light out. The officer told him to turn on his hazard lights and step out of the vehicle to look at the light after the officer said he saw a bulge in French's shorts. He attempted to pat him down for weapons. French told him he wasn't comfortable with people touching him. The officer told French to put his hands behind his back, produced handcuffs at that time, but French refused. The officer threatened to tase Mr. French, and that's when French struggled with the officer, shoving him to the ground. French fled to the back of a house, then ran back to the front. That's when the officer immediately tased him. According to the Baldwin County Major Crimes Unit, several seconds of the video are missing due to a body camera malfunction. Okay? However, it does show the shooting and graphic video of French's last moments. French went to the ground after he was tased, but then took the taser from the officer and tased him once. The officer began firing shots with French still on the ground. As French struggled to stand up, he continued to point the taser at the officer. He went down into a bush and appeared to lose consciousness with the taser still pointed at the officer. After the shooting, other officers arrived to the scene, and the officer involved told them, quote, "Let's get him some help." He attempted life-saving measures, but was unsuccessful. The officer was put in the back of a patrol car where he's heard on camera praying for French's family and asking God to forgive him for his sins. Officer Brandon Thompson was cleared of any criminal charges, but a federal lawsuit is still pending. A 10-count civil lawsuit has been filed in federal court on behalf of the French family that includes claims of an illegal traffic stop, excessive force, and wrongful death. A motion to dismiss the lawsuit has not yet been ruled on. All right, let's back up, because I know some people are going to say, well, he had a taser. Let's talk about the taser. Number one, how many times did you hear that taser deployed by the officer? He likely had no more taser cartridges. I don't think those were cartridges or active rounds left inside of that taser. This is probably why they said nothing about the ability or the capacity of Mr. French to enact any type of physical damage against the officer, because the cartridges had been suspended by the first cop. So the cop suspends the cartridges. Nothing left, okay? Speculating at this point. There's also a distance ratio. How close was the officer? Number three, a taser is considered to be a non-lethal weapon. That's right. It's so non-lethal that in order for an officer to be taser certified, they have to be tasered themselves. That's how non-lethal it is considered. Multiple courts, including federal courts, they have upheld that tasers are considered to be non-lethal devices. So which one is it? Did he have a life-threatening device or did he not? Was the officer in fear for his life or mad? All right. Yasmin, these questions will have to be answered at some point by the federal court or a judge in the near future. What say you?
Yeah, I don't care how innocent or guilty this man was of whatever crime. His taillights were out. He wasn't signaling. Americans have the right to due process. We have the right to a jury. We have the right to legal representation. We have a right to not be shot and killed over a traffic violation. But whenever or wherever there's anarchy or tyranny in a country, it's not the government that is executing it. You can blame the people at the top all you want for maybe fostering some kind of culture or political atmosphere, but it's the boots on the ground that are actually executing these atrocities against the public. If you look through history, even recent history, going back to just the early 1900s, around World War I and II, those boots aren't just military boots or special forces boots. It's local police forces that turn on the public. It's the cops who purport to serve and protect their communities who are committing these atrocities against those communities. They're the ones who are just following orders or who are responding erratically because they fear for their own lives or their own livelihoods, and they think that that fear justifies their behavior and the murder of innocent victims. And the more we protect these types of institutions and bad actors, and the more we ignore discrimination and other bad practices in law enforcement, the more we will inevitably devolve into a tyrannical society. When people are afraid of cops, you're already not in a good position. And we are far, far beyond that. People are either afraid of cops or they don't respect the cops or both. Few people have favorable opinions of cops, it seems. I'm speaking anecdotally and generally, of course. But for those who do, it's almost an oppositional position that they hold now. Supporting the cops has become aligned, at least in this country, with supporting or excusing racism, supporting tyranny, not supporting social justice movements, excusing corruption where it is blatant to see, and supporting the use and threat of violence to detain individuals who more often than not are simply exercising their right to free speech. We've seen it time and time again in this country. These stories are getting very, very old. I feel like I'm running out of things to say about it, but all I want to get across is that the state of policing in this country is broken, but it's benefiting somebody and it's not us.
Very well said. We will bring you updates as the case develops through federal court. All right, cops pin a black man holding his baby to an SUV, sparking outrage. Put up the picture full mask. So according to the Atlanta Black Star, last month, videos were posted on Facebook and Reddit that elicited widespread outrage and concern over the safety of the little girl. The first video, shot by the unidentified man, shows a Columbus, Ohio police officer pulling up behind the man's SUV, parked mostly on the sidewalk, blocking a designated city bus stop, police later said. The video shows the two men bickering and grabbing at each other, according to the Columbus Dispatch. A second video, shot by the man's wife, who was standing beside him when the officer pulled up, shows the man being pinned against his SUV with his daughter partially trapped between him and his vehicle. Okay? So aware of the furor that that's building online, Columbus Police Chief Elaine Bryant. Miss Bryant issued a statement the day after the violent arrest in which she said the video showed an incomplete account of the incident. Police subsequently released the video from the body cam and dash cam recording, she said, providing a more thorough account in the interest of transparency and accuracy. We are posting these videos to provide a more complete, objective picture of this incident, end quote. Bryant wrote her statement. Bryant said the incident was being referred to the Department of the Inspector General for further investigation. Police later released a video from the body cam dash recording, okay, and talked about how, once again, this is in the interest of the public. And Bryant wrote, in the police video, the police officer can be seen approaching an SUV where the husband and wife are standing outside. There's another picture here. First of all, this is a quote. First of all, I was just letting you know, with the attitude and everything like that, we're talking about quotes that are happening during the video. For that, you are going to get a ticket, okay? The officer can be heard saying just after he arrived on the scene. He also orders the man who was black to get out of the street. The man, who police said had asked his wife to hand him the little girl, responds loudly, quote, "Go ahead and do it, man," he yells. Go ahead and do it. Now, go ahead and do what? Well, according to the officer, because the man has an attitude, he's going to get a ticket. I don't know what law he's citing where attitude gets you a ticket, but obviously he believes that this is justification for the ticket. So the man says, father said, go ahead. Give me the ticket. He's irritated, frustrated. Give me a ticket, okay? Put it up. The officer finally pushes him to the curb and a scuffle ensues. The man repeatedly yells at the officer, quote, "Get your hands off me." while his wife can be heard yelling at the officer to stop. Both are recording. Bryant said the officer ordered the man off of the street for, quote, everyone's safety, end quote. And when he did not comply, the officer moved to arrest him and the man resisted. The video shows the officer eventually pushing the man against the SUV, pulling his arm behind his back. He holds his daughter with his other arm. The man, screaming and crying at this point, yells, "Help," repeatedly. The officer tries to get the child's mother to take her daughter and grows increasingly frustrated when she doesn't. Quote, "I can't grab her," the woman says. "I'm recording." Finally, another officer arrives and grabs the baby. Officers then slammed the man to the ground and handcuffed him. The man's wife screams, "He didn't do nothing. He lives here," end quote. The man is screaming, "I can't breathe." He can't breathe, his wife says. "Are you doing this? Are we doing this again?" The man continues yelling, quote, "Jesus Christ, what did I do?" End quote. He asked as he's being led to the back of a police cruiser. He then demands to speak to the unnamed officer supervisor. One cop can be heard asking the man, "What is your problem?" And this scene, the man was charged with obstructing official business, a 5th-degree felony. If convicted, he could spend about a year in jail, fined up to $2,500. The wife of the arrested man has since removed the video from public view. And here we are. What is a 5th-degree felony? Many of us have never heard of one. It's basically a misdemeanor, okay? So a 5th-degree felony is the lowest felony you can be charged with. It is such a low felony that it carries the same penalty as a misdemeanor crime. 12 months or less is a misdemeanor offense, typically, what you will get. A 5th-degree felony is such a nothing felony that it carries basically the same weight as a misdemeanor charge. And so what they're doing is they're deciding, instead of charging this man with a misdemeanor obstruction, which, by the way, he should not have a charge at all, given the circumstances of what happened, they decided to charge him with a felony, showing their bias in the beginning. Now, the man was told he would get a ticket by the officer because of his attitude. This is clear. This is on the recording. We have the transcript. The man says, "Go ahead and do it." He doesn't like the attitude. The cop already said he didn't like the man's attitude. Grabs the man, tries to arrest the man, tries to effect an arrest, citing he's protecting others and telling this man to get out the street. His police chief backs it, said, "Oh, he was just trying to protect everyone else." So he ordered the man to get out of the street and had to arrest him for not complying. So the cop puts the child in danger by trying to not put others in danger who aren't even there, nor are they in danger. The only person that created a danger here is the police. All right, we're going to bring you updates to this story. Yasmin, thoughts on this?
Yeah, Doc, yesterday on this show, we had a story about the toddler who was begging the cop not to shoot them. And today we have this. It's even more ridiculous. It's crazy. If the cops' disregard for human life was ever in question, here we have this story. Here we see a cop detaining a man over nothing who is literally holding a baby. How dangerous can a man be when he is holding a baby? That's a baby that we saw pinned against an SUV. That's crazy. This cop is inhuman. He has completely lost the plot. If cops are detaining and killing people sometimes in the name of public protection, people who fail to signal, like in the last story, or people who just have an attitude with them, then the cops are the public menace, not these people who they're detaining and charging with 5th-degree felonies. The cops are the danger to society. The cops are the reason why these streets are not safe. But not only that, But the cops are the reason why the cops can't seem to command any respect from the public. It is their own fault. They have made this problem for themselves. Of course, this man had an attitude with the cop. That man doesn't respect the cop because the cop's an idiot, which the cop then had no problem demonstrating. He literally proved the point. The cop was simple-minded and fragile. He couldn't stand the idea that some guy didn't like him. He couldn't earn the respect of the man on his own. So he felt badly about that. And so he had to use whatever force he thought he had, violence, just his very tiny feelings were hurt and he responded in a very tiny way. This whole situation did not need to happen. It's no wonder these cops are losing the battle for public approval because they are not worthy of public approval and they're not worthy of our respect.
Yeah, well said. We're going to bring updates, as I said, as they develop. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
Damn it, they failed us. And if you're not angry about that, Michael, and any of you out there, then you're damn wrong. Because you should be angry. Young Turks.
It was genuine. He was mad.
Cenk Uygur, known online as one of the Young Turks, isn't afraid to throw some punches.
3, 2, 1, fade up.
Cenk the Turk Uygur.
What kind of TV station is this? The whole point is for me to yell and scream and tell you what I think.
It was right out of like Wayne's World.
This guy on this little rinky-dink website is speaking truth to power.
We've been averaging 600,000 views a day, beating most of the cable shows in America.
We're the largest online news show in the world.
We're celebrating our 1 billionth view. Television, we're coming.
More politics ahead with Cenk Uygur.
He knew that the MSNBC opportunity was an experiment.
If Phil and host beat CNN and headline news combined, at some point, they want to give me a show.
Every single year, that comes out of our paycheck. We put it in, and you're saying we were suckers.
When you, as a host, tells someone you're interviewing to shut up, that's going to raise a red flag.
That guy needed a tall glass of shut up juice.
If President Obama's doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to tell you that he's doing the right thing so I can, quote, support him.
He says to me, "You won't believe the meeting that I just had."
The head of MSNBC talked to me.
And they want him off the air.
Cenk took an incredible risk.
We're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media. The Democrats and the Republicans are here to screw you. And who on the air is saying it?
I wouldn't have done what he did.
That if I'm going to be a talk show host, I should be the biggest talk show host in the country. I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close.
Before you know it, I'll be back on your TV doing a national show. I guarantee it.
Magic. It's showtime. And say 45 minutes. I'm hosting today. Now, I know what you're thinking, JR, your face is already perfect, but you know what? I still need to apply some makeup. I went through this process, right? A few years ago. When I realized that I was gonna have to wear makeup on the show, I had to go through like finding out what my undertones were. You guys know what those are? I got my MAC Cosmetics. It says SPF 15 foundation, broad spectrum. But apparently what I have is red undertones, and I think pores are not supposed to be seen. I need all these things to be confirmed for me. These sponge things don't work for me. You gotta use your hands. This I did. That's how the magic really happens. So we're gonna go through a tutorial how to make the magic happen from beautiful to beautifuler. Let's go. I've already been moisturized. That's the first thing. But moisturization already happened. We go raw. All hands. Pick up a couple streaks. This is the guy way of putting on makeup. We got dots. There's some shiny points that generally happen. First of all, here we go. You dust here. I'm putting way too much, but you dust. Oh, get the excess off. You don't want chunky powder. There's like a T-zone, I think, right? Mine is a double T-zone. Because I went middle and another cross. Make sure your nose isn't all shiny. People get on you for it. They'll say, that's not a good point you made on there, JR. Your nose is shiny. You guys are picky like that sometimes. I think that's about it, fellas and ladies. See you guys next time. Bitsies.
All right, good to be with you. Welcome back. We have a lot of comments. I will read as many as I can. Always great to have your participation. Bart Cow says, I doubt she learned a lesson and voted for Trump. I would be surprised if she did because my empathy towards MAGA is very microscopic. Yeah. That's still bigger than the empathy for us. Okay, leave that. Dex, buyer's remorse will soon morph into anger and infighting. You can always pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, right? Yeah. Haiku Dragon. So it wasn't worth giving him a ticket, but deserved a taser and a death sentence? Yeah. And I think this is, Gargoyle Dragon. Thank you for that, by the way. Dr. Richard, love your show. As a good follower of Christ's teachings, I do feel bad for her, but I feel worse for my brother who voted Kamala and not this insanity, but also lost his job with the Fed. That's correct. Once again, we are the ultimate I told you so crew, right? That's right, Swift. Degrading the man in front of his family. That is correct. That's what that cop did. Okay. All right, got something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish Karen would.
You want to call the police on him for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life. Yes, sir. There's a seat here.
Just leave her alone. She's stupid.
There's a seat. There's a seat here.
You can record all day.
There's a seat here.
That's okay. You see? There's no space.
Exactly. We're all sitting. It's all right.
But there's no space.
You're sitting, sir.
Did I give you permission? No.
You are right, but
okay, but can you move? Can you move, please?
God, no, I'm not
I'm not giving you permission to record.
No,
so can
I'm not moving. No, I'm not moving.
You have to tell me you're recording. You're not even
No, I don't have to tell.
I will kill you.
Kill me.
Du vas a ir esa buena parte. Hostia, ¿qué te salió?
Ya está. No, okay. Excuse me. She just spit in my face.
There's more. So currently you have an unhinged Karen who has allegedly committed assault by deciding to spit in a person's face. They are at a kindergarten graduation, by the way. Police eventually arrive. She then decides to play victim. Here it is.
Can you move, please?
So you're sitting, I'm sitting there.
No,
space?
you came to my space.
Sir, we're all sitting. We are in a
Okay, I know, but she can just...
That is absolutely
Yeah, publicly you can record.
You can record. But see, why are you But because over a seat, ma'am, it's not the point. The point is, I guess you cannot walk away without speaking to her. Ma'am, so are you saying it's okay if I go to the first row and just sit in between two people like that now? No, I'm not. That's not right. That's what she is. Okay, but I will speak with her about that. I am going to talk to her about that. Now, can you step back from please?
Wow. Put it at full mass. Here we go. After the woman, the white female, decided to allegedly spit in the black woman's face, the couple then tried to justify their actions. Quote, because I was sitting here and she came here, a burly man cried. Someone else in the crowd had asked them why they were all worked up. And in a physical altercation with the lady, or an altercation period, quote, because you came into my space, he complained in broken English with others watching. The white woman suddenly calmed down, pulling her kids as close as if she were the one who had been wronged. The video ends with the officer pulling the couple further to the side to de-escalate the situation. It's not clear if they went to jail for the apparent crimes or alleged crimes that were committed on the video, including terroristic threats and assault, said some who shared the video on social media. Put the picture back up again. You know, context matters. They are at a kindergarten graduation. Okay? And as I say often, kids are not always listening, but they are always learning, no matter what. The context of this, from the verbal assaults, terroristic threats, and also the physical assault, all of this is being done at a kindergarten graduation, which means she's connected somehow to maybe at least one child, could be more, at that graduation. A kindergarten graduation. And just because it is not your seat, just because somebody sits where you would like to sit, does not give you the right to act like I can't even say kindergarten. Okay. So graduation happens because you've reached a particular milestone in your life. You have matured and learned some stuff. And so the kindergartens are now graduating. They're going to go on to their grade school education. But it seems as if this Karen, and possibly the one with her, should probably go back to learn a few lessons from their kindergarten years also.
Yeah, I mean, you can't teach emotional intelligence, maybe not at this age, right? Maybe this woman is too far gone. Who knows? I would like to think that there's better for her on the other side, but we really don't know. People who are so completely incapable of managing their own emotions in public, they are the worst of us. This is embarrassing for this woman, but I fear she doesn't realize that she should be embarrassed by her behavior. It's also simple-minded, which is more than a little unsettling. I get uncomfortable around like very MAGA people because I don't understand what their sense of reality or normalcy is. So I feel like they're just functioning in a completely different plane, and that makes me very uncomfortable. And these are the same vibes that I'm getting from this woman. You said it, Doc. You said this is very unhinged behavior, and it's a wild way to act over anything, let alone something so inconsequential. I always wonder about people like this, people who function in life this way, especially in public. If something as small as this can trigger her so hard, how does she actually deal with any adversity in her life, especially as a mother? It's very scary.
There you go. I tell my college students that being smart is important, but it doesn't mean everything. It doesn't matter how smart you are when no one likes you. Mm-hmm. And so your IQ is not as important as your EQ, your emotional quotient, as opposed to your intellectual quotient. So hopefully people like you more if you treat them better, Karen. All right, hell of a thing. Conservatives, mad. Why? Because Love is Blind, the show, bride who left the groom over politics. Yes, politics, ladies and gentlemen. Put up the picture for Mass. This is an interesting dive into the world of the wacky here. So a would-be bride on the hit Netflix dating show Love is Blind has gone viral for leaving her would-be groom at the altar because of his politics. In Love is Blind, couples connect in pods while talking to each other through a wall. And they get engaged before ever laying eyes on each other. They then spend 30 days together. First, on a romantic getaway, and then in their home cities, before deciding whether or not to go through with the wedding. Sounds like basic dating today, if you ask me. Okay. So this is the gist of the program. All right, very popular, by the way. Now, put it up. Something happened here. So in the current season, final episode, which premiered on Friday, the bride, her name is Miss Sarah Carton, okay? Sarah explained why she said, quote, I don't know to partner Ben Mazinga. When it came time to tie the knot or walk away. Quote, I love you so much, but I've always wanted a partner to be on the same wavelength, Sarah said. Quote, and so today, I can't marry you, she added. Quote, my heart is there. But when we talked about a lot of the values that I hold so close to my heart, making this decision, my mind is telling me I can't. Okay? Leaving the ceremony with her mother and her sister, Miss Sarah Carlton elaborated that Mazinga's political views played a big role in her decision. Quote, I remember I asked him about Black Lives Matter, Sarah said. And I'm no expert, but when I asked him about it, he's like, quote, I guess I never really thought about it too much. That affected me. How could it not? How did it not make you think about something? Put up Sarah's picture again. I can confidently say this. We're at the Black delegation. We are going to recruit Sarah in exchange for that black guy on Fox News in the morning that nobody knows. Another quote. I asked him, this is great, by the way. I asked him to what his church's views are, and he said he didn't know. And so then I watched a sermon online about sexual identity, and it was traditional. And I told that to Ben, and he doesn't really have much to say about it. I want someone to think about that stuff. And then Sarah broached the subject of politics before ever meeting Mazinga in person. Her progressive ideology clearly did not mesh with Mazinga's more moderate, ambivalent views. Politics came up several more times after the two met face to face, but the two never really seemed to find common ground. So in an interview with People, Sarah said it was less about Mazinga's particular views and more about the fact that he wasn't particularly engaged in political subjects. Quote, I want someone to think about that stuff, she said. There was no curiosity coming from his side. People prove who they are. Actions speak louder than words. You can say anything you want, but show me that you've changed, that would have changed everything if he really showed some priority. So Fox News, obviously, they are very upset about this. I mean, Fox News, they took their shows dealing with hardcore fake news, and they decided to talk about this. All right? So here it is.
We've gone through so many polls on this show that like the right and Republicans are willing to have lunch with the left, or willing to room with the left, or willing to be friends. But the left doesn't have that same sort of tolerance.
100%. It only goes both ways. I've never been more unimpressed with an individual, first of all, and I don't know, because all of the mixed messages and the inappropriate affect, the laughing while you're doing it, I love you so much after 5 seconds, I don't get it. But I would say it's not over a difference of BLM views, it's that he refused to have one that was in lockstep with her, and that's the hallmark of that side.
Yeah, I know that we're running out of time, so I'll just say that it clearly this woman, and anybody who goes on a reality show is looking for fame, and that is fine, but it feels like if you're trying to look for fame in this way with being political like this, that you're about like 4.5 years too late.
First of all, it wasn't 5 seconds. It was 30 days plus the pod. Laura Ingraham said this, quote, Let's find him a nice conservative 20-something white girl. Girl. He'll look back and laugh at this. Laura. This is an interesting comment from you. Put up Tommy Lauren. Her comment, even more interesting. Is there anything more annoying than a liberal white woman? Colin Rudd wrote, Love is blind. Sarah Carton turns down her fiance, Ben Mazinga, at the altar because of his opinion on the BLM movement, sexual identity, and the vaccine. This man just avoided a life of misery. Congrats. Also note, the same season of that show, there was a black couple where the bride, Virginia, also said no at the altar because she wasn't comfortable with the grooms, Devin, conservative political stances. But conservatives have not shown much outrage towards them. And, Devin didn't get the same kind of advocacy for him. I just wonder why Devin did not become front and center on Fox News. Circumstances were basically the same. All right, Sarah, well done. Well done. I get your point, all right? The point is, hey, you want somebody that believes in something, because having mindless idiots run around with the ability to vote, by the way, is why we are where we are today. And he seemed to be a very mindless idiot. Okay, thoughts?
Yeah, why are people mad about this, right? Like, this is so, like, who would want to be married to someone whose fundamental beliefs are so different from theirs? That feels like such a basic tenet of marriage. Right. You look for people who have certain things in common with, like, the big things. The big things tend to be politics and religion, general ideas of human rights, behaviors, etc. This show is crazy, though. Doc, I don't know if you've ever seen it. The premise is already insane. Nick Lachey loves to assume that people know who he is, and he loves to say the word sight unseen. He says it too many times. I stopped watching the show after 1, maybe 2 seasons because it got a little bit redundant, but I heard that this was one of the worst seasons to date. But the whole point of the show is that you're supposed to meet and fall in love with someone, get engaged to, and ultimately marry a person without seeing them and having just a few conversations with them. Those conversations, they try to cover a lot of ground, but anyone who has ever been in any kind of relationship knows that those first few conversations can only do so much to really illuminate who a person truly is. And when you watch the show, you see that they get engaged sight unseen, but they have to hang out for a while as a couple before the actual marriage ceremony takes place. And a lot can and often does happen during that time, which is totally normal. That's what happens when people date. That's why people date before they actually get married. Many couples realize that during the time between the engagement and the marriage, they are simply not compatible with one another. The people at Fox and conservative pundits that are mad that once again, the thing is, okay, they're only mad that these people, these women, particularly women, especially white women, something that they seem to be especially upset about. They're saying that we don't want their type of men. White women do not want their men. Liberal and progressive women are telling them again that conservative views are often perceived to be discriminatory against various groups of people, including women, and people don't want to be associated with people who are so discriminatory against various groups of people. This is why conservative men don't mention that they're conservative in their dating profiles, because they know that women will not want them once they find out that they hold all of these very conservative and regressive views. And this isn't about tolerance. I'm not tolerant of people who wear their intolerance of others as a badge of pride and honor. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm the most tolerant person in the world, because I don't tolerate behavior like that. Besides, why do these conservative men want a liberal woman anyway? Like, live your life the way you want and find someone who's going to be compatible with that, with your choices and with your beliefs. And one last thing, Tomi Lahren's comment about liberal white women is very telling about how they view Democrats and liberals. They see them as others, and they see white women who choose to align themselves with those others as worse than non-white liberals.
Yeah. Same ideology back from the 60s, by the way. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. So you can stay.
audience has given us everything, so we couldn't be more connected. When we first started, people would start giving us directions and say, okay, the mics are too large, move them. Turn them into lav mics. I mean, they were incredible. And then one guy walked in and gave us a really expensive switcher and said, you guys need this, and walked out. Okay, it's amazing. They helped us build a studio. They did a $2 million funding campaign for us. And so they really are us. We do this show together to the point where some of our hosts are even former listeners. So when we say that the audience is part of TYT, we really mean it.
I think what the audience also appreciates is especially if they're members, they really get an inside look into who we are, our personal lives, what drives and motivates us. It goes beyond just storytelling. I think that what we do is allow our viewers and our listeners into our daily lives, and we give them kind of like this inside look into everything that we're passionate about and why it is that we're doing what we're doing, right? Like the motivation behind what we're doing, I think is important for our audience to know, and we're not shy about sharing that with them. And it's different from what people typically see in legacy media outlets where everything is kind of dry and robotic and there's really no personality or authenticity that comes along with it. Oftentimes when we're doing the show, I don't really think of it as me telling them stories. I think of it as us having a mutual respect and conversation with one another. And as I said earlier, I mean, not only do I feel that through the work I do, I'm informing our audience, but they inform me oftentimes as well. You know, they'll pitch stories to us. They'll tell us, you know, a certain perspective or angle to a story that we might have missed. And I love it.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. Let me read a couple of comments. I'm kind of pressed for time. Lynn says, I truly can't wrap my head around why people spit on others. WTF, that's right. It's insane. And Labrio says, if you vote for Trump or boo Taylor Swift, your partner's gonna leave you. America 2025. That's what it's basically coming out to be. Yeah, I agree. All right, very sad reality. Juvenile detention officers decided to make children engage in gladiator fights. Put up the picture for a mass. These individuals are supposed to be in charge of our youth through the California Juvenile Detention Center. They have now been charged for allegedly instigating gladiator fights between youth while they watched and laughed, according to the indictment. More than 24 detention officers at a Los Angeles area juvenile correctional facility face criminal charges for allegedly staging gladiator fights between youth detainees. 24. Let me talk about that number for a moment. If you have 24 juvenile detention officers doing something like this, that means it is ingrained in the culture of that facility. You cannot tell me supervisors were unaware. You cannot tell me that the commanding officer was not aware. You cannot tell me that the director was not aware. 24? We're talking about children. You don't think these youth said something to somebody at some point, at some time? Juvenile detention centers, number one, most of them are adverse to rehabilitation or guidance or structure. When I was a teenager, I was in and out of juvenile detention myself. I was a foster child inside and outside of juvenile detention custody, both internally and on probation. It was an insane system. Then it seems to be a more insane system today. But what I never saw were officers engaged in this level of negligent supervision and criminal activity. Those children there, many of them come from broken environments. They need guidance. They need mentorship. There's more. The indictment stems from a probe that began early this year early last year, after surveillance video was leaked to state investigators that showed several teenagers beating a 17-year-old child in what appeared to be a string of coordinated attacks as several probation officers looked on and laughed. The footage obtained by the LA Times shows those one-on-one fights breaking out inside a room at the Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall, December 22nd, 2023, when multiple detainees were seen eating breakfast as the facility's officers supervised them. The youth who was targeted is seen standing at the far end of the room while multiple others file in, charge at him, and start punching him. Each fight lasts a few seconds before they cease their attacks and calmly return to eating breakfast or leaving the room. However, with each attack, the teen is visibly worn down. He suffers a barrage of kicks and punches after being knocked to the ground at least twice by two different teens. Throughout the attacks, most of the detention officers are seen acting more as bystanders rather than running interference to de-escalate the violence. One female officer is seen on surveillance video smiling and laughing after one attack ends. A male officer who intervened in one of the fights is seen smiling and nodding at one of the attackers. A month after the attacks, the Los Angeles County Probation Department announced that 8 probation officers connected to the incident had been suspended from their positions. They should have been arrested, not suspended, but actually arrested. The only reason they were suspended instead of arrested at the very moment is because they don't value the population that they are in charge of supervising. That's the only reason. Nor do they value the families that are connected to these youth. After the surveillance video was leaked to the California Attorney General's office, an investigation was launched, which ultimately led to a criminal indictment accusing 30 officers, including the director of the juvenile facility, of facilitating at least 69 fights between July and December 2023 involving 143 teens and child detainees between the ages of 12 and 18. The accused officers were charged with child endangerment and abuse, conspiracy, and battery. The Times reported that an attorney for the 17-year-old victim seen in the surveillance footage of the December 2023 fight petitioned the release of her client, citing unsafe conditions. The lawyer, Cherie Albin, said her client's nose was broken during the attacks, but he wasn't rendered any medical treatment until days after the incident. The LA County Probation Department stated that it, quote, fully applauds and supports the indictment, adding that the staff members who have been charged have all been placed on unpaid leave. The case is ongoing. You all didn't do the job you're supposed to do in the first place. That's why the video had to be leaked. So damn your badge and damn your statement. These are children. You know, sometimes children, and I understand this as a mentor today, youth that seem as if they deserve our love the least are the ones who need our love the most. That's how it works, period. All right, Yas, thoughts here.
Yeah, this is yet another example, I think our third in 2 days, Doc, of cops showing disrespect and disregard for the lives and dignity of children, literal children. This is also just such a base level form of entertainment. I know we were just talking about Love is Blind, which is mindless entertainment at best, but these people, these law enforcement officers, they need to find another form of entertainment. We need to bring back Jerry Springer or something for the sake of our national well-being, because this is out of control. But for people who are supposed to be in charge of children, to be behaving like children themselves, they're so bad at their jobs because they can't protect these children. They are such horrible people that they take pleasure in children that are already struggling, suffering even further. They are bullies and they do not deserve to have the jobs that they have. And this should be a much bigger conversation that goes into recidivism and the inadequacy of our justice system when it comes to rehabilitation. Our children deserve so much better than what these children are getting.
Well said. Very well said. All right, we'll bring you updates as the case develops and prosecutions move forward. As always, great to have you on the program. Tell people how they can follow you, check out your great work.
Of course, yeah, you can find me on the Rebel HQ YouTube channel. I do several videos there a week, and you can find me on various shows. I'll be hosting the second hour of the main show later this week on Friday, and you can follow me on Instagram at YazK. That's YAZZZZZK, 5 Z's.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for all you do. All right, Bullpen is next. Stick and stay.
What contributions to the progressive cause are you most proud of? I mean, I don't have super high aspirations for a singular role that I can play in the movement or anything. I try to present myself as what I think that I am, which is a progressive man who is driven by I think, well-interrogated and well-organized system of values that I try to stay consistent on, and I demonstrate that that's the sort of life that a person can lead and be successful and be happy and all of that. And that should not need to be done, but there are so many people on the right that are trying to push men in the opposite direction that I want to be able to do that. Along the way, if I can get people to care about some topics that they wouldn't necessarily care about, or that for some men they might think that's not a topic that they should be focused on, that's definitely something that I relish doing. And along the way, I mean, we've been able to introduce people to a lot of candidates. That's been a big part of what we've done. You know, not all of them necessarily got in office. Probably most of them did not. And a lot of them, you might not even remember their names. But it was great to be able to provide people the platform where they had the chance of, you know, making a difference. Obviously, AOC and all that. But there's been a lot of great people along the way.
In the bonus episode for the members, we do some inside baseball. We're gonna look at John's desk. Nice little spaceship here. Nerd. But it is kind of look cool. Who has Legos? Oh no. He's taken apart a keyboard. Who has a mouse pad that's this big? He's got a dog with a nose that you can hang something on. You know what this desk screams to me? Nerd. And that's how we like him. We love Johnny Pie. He's got his own personality like everybody does at TYT. Come meet us all in the bonus episodes. TYT.com/team.
David Sorrell.
Dr. Phil.
Adam Green drop by.
Charlemagne.
Congressman, great to have you. It's great to be with you, Chike.
Your show is a great thing. You're informing people. A lot of the shows that I live on, you know, my CNN, my MSNBC, and even Fox, and any of the other shows, NPR, they are so quick to decide that they know what this building means today.
The one thing that I hate that politicians do, you know, they talk about the people they should be talking to.
Do they have any idea that they're the establishment and that they're hated? Or do they not realize that at all?
People are so deeply in their little universe. I think it's very easy to not really question what you're doing.
Voters have a right to ask questions of any nominee, whether they're independent, Republican, or Democrat.
The system is duopoly that suppresses competition.
How is it the year 2024 and we're still like, maybe they'll talk about paid medical? Like how is that like at one level it's like, look at what we're talking about now. You're like, it's 2024.
And that's always been the critique, that your critique of us is, well, you guys give good speeches, you put out good tweets, but you're not wielding actual power. Now we're starting to.
Yes. Congratulations on all your success. You guys are everywhere. It's about a country and a principle, and that's what you and I both worked to achieve. And I'm so glad that at least half the battle has now been won.
If you want to go really hear what's going on honestly, you should tune into the Young Turks.
Thanks for doing such a great job. Please keep it up. Hang tough.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
Oh, I like making you happy.
I didn't think about that.
This is a happy Anna Kasparian. What's up? You're welcome, YouTube.
Join the Dragon Squad by becoming a YouTube channel member. Click the join button below or sign up on tyt.com/join to get access to fun emojis, a member-only chat, exclusive shop TYT designs, ad-free watching, and so many other amazing perks. Plus, you get bragging rights for being part of the coolest community on the internet and help us drive real positive change in the world. The Dragon Squad awaits, so join today.
All right, welcome back. A lot of show left. Let me read a couple of these comments, kind of pressed for time. Thank you all for joining the conversation. The Jack says, I have a cousin who was in one of these facilities. He now has full-blown schizophrenia. That's an unfortunate reality of these facilities that do not engage in rehabilitation. Love 18 white girl. Couples leave each other for less. Conservatives will complain about anything but everyone else are the snowflakes. Great observation, Love 18 white girl. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bullpen. A high honor today. I have in the studio Dr. Chike Akua, Associate Professor, Clark Atlanta University, one of the most sought after speakers at urban schools, colleges, universities, educational conferences, etc. Has been featured in the Washington Post, Ebony Magazine, Black Enterprise Magazine, and has also led over 1,000 individuals on study tours throughout Africa, Egypt, Morocco, Ghana, and many other places. And he also happened to be my doctoral dissertation supervisor when I finished my doctoral studies at Clark Atlanta University. Doc, welcome to Indisputable. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Great to be here with you.
Good to have you, man. This is a treat. And you and I have become friends over the years since my studies at CAU. Yes. And last year, I had the great opportunity to co-lecture with you in Egypt. And I wanted to talk about the concepts, the ancient concepts of unity consciousness, because it seems as if we are in a significantly distance from that consciousness today. And you are the person, you're the go-to person for this stuff. So talk to us about it. Then we'll talk about opportunities to travel, to take a tour, and to learn in Kemet, known as Egypt.
Sure. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because in ancient Kemet, or what we today would refer to as Egypt, there was a concept called Smai Tawi, and that was the unification of Upper Kemet and Lower Kemet to form one strong nation. So it's very interesting that the American Civil War was between the Union, which was in the north, and the Confederacy, which was in the south. You had a similar dynamic going on in ancient Kemet. And so it was very, very important when King Narmer came along with this concept of Smai Tawi and unified Upper Kemet and Lower Kemet. And that's the kind of unity we definitely need today.
What are some of the nuances you see happening in the American culture, contextualized through the Black experience, contextualized through what we would understand as the policy experience, because now there's a policy shift happening? How does this help us understand where we are and how we can get back on track or even be better?
Well, policy comes about as a result of the organized practices of the people who deem that something needs to be changed in society. And so it's so important that we have shows like yours that help to inform us about the decisions that need to be made. In addition to that, one of the reasons why it's so important for us to know about our history and culture, you've heard it said before, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And so we're seeing some things coming about today that we never expected would come about as a result of the struggles of Black freedom fighters of the 50s and 60s, who put many policies in place that are now being dismantled. And then, of course, it wasn't just Black freedom fighters. It was people of goodwill of all ethnicities. And we're seeing the destabilization of the nation taking place right now as a result of retrograde policies.
Now, what should happen? You are one of these individuals who understands history, culture, but also what has happened with the unification of humanity. Because when you look at the ancient Kemetic people, you see this great emphasis and this intentional emphasis on connecting based on who we are spiritually, or who we are as a greater concept of humanity. What you have happening now, well, that's an illusion for most.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that concerns me most from a policy perspective is that, again, going back to the 50s and 60s and the struggles of Black freedom fighters and people of goodwill, they put policies in place and they were very politically savvy in the way that they did it. When you look at, for example, the funding that comes about as a result of just for Title I funding, they were savvy enough to make that a line item on the federal budget, so that no matter who was in office, that funding would be there to deal with the inequities that are in the K through 12 public education system. They almost made it idiot proof, but we're dealing with some different kind of idiots today. When you think of the fact that programs like Upward Bound that come about as a result of TRIO programs, here again is another set of funding and policy initiatives that were put in place to be a line item on the federal budget, so that no matter who was in office, that funding stream would always be there. And now what we're seeing today is the systematic dismantling of so many of these things that now throws that up in the air and has everybody wondering, are these funds gonna be here, which were put there in place to fill in the gap for certain educational inequities. So this is something that we have to look very closely at and hold our elected officials accountable for.
I remember years ago, I benefited, I was 18. I received this voucher. This voucher was very important back then because it allowed me to do a couple of things. One, I could apply for college without having to pay college application fees. Now, back at that time, almost everyone had a college application fee. Many of those fees are waived today. But that was provided to me by Upward Bound.
Wow.
Upward Bound is a federal TRIO program. And then years later, I became an employee of ETS, Educational Talent Search. Educational Talent Search is funded by the TRIO program. It is another one of those Upward Bound programs helping first-year college students have an opportunity to actually thrive as an academic if they choose to, so that your zip code will not determine your outcome in life. Well, those programs are now starting to be cut in a serious way. And we now don't know if those programs will even exist in the future. So if that program doesn't exist when I'm 18 years old, there's no way in the hell that I'm able to apply for college. I don't have money. I don't have the $50. I don't have the $25. I don't have the $100. I don't get the application. I don't get the application. I don't get it to college. I don't have the opportunity to thrive. That something that small and that simple becomes a barrier to a whole human being from having actual education. This could be technical education or academic education in the traditional sense. It doesn't matter. So what's the cause and effect of programs like that being eliminated today?
Well, you and millions of others benefited from that. I did, when I was working on my master's degree in school counseling, I did my internship, part of my internship and practicum at Upward Bound. So there are people who have benefited from these programs over the generations. But when you link that back to what we were talking about earlier about ancient Kemet, there was a concept called Ma'at. Ma'at stands for truth, justice, and righteousness. This was the overarching ethical framework that formed the nature of the nation. And there was a saying going back to Ptahhotep, who wrote the oldest complete text in the world. He said, the balancing of the nation is in Ma'at, truth, justice, and righteousness. And as you can see, our nation is out of balance right now because we are not operating in Ma'at. Serious leaders understand that truth, justice, and righteousness are not optional, they're essential. I'm gonna say that again. Truth, justice, and righteousness are not optional, they're essential. But again, we see the systematic dismantling of so many of the policies that have provided opportunity for so many Americans, not just African Americans, but all Americans. And so it's very disheartening to see this, but we also take heart knowing that we don't just sit down and allow this to happen, that we are active advocating to make sure that the truth be known and holding our elected officials accountable.
Doc, I remember during my studies with you, I'm in class and we're going through all of the prerequisites required for a doctoral program at Clark. And one of the doctoral students said, well, who is your doctoral supervisor? And I said, Dr. Akua. And this brother said, oh man, good luck. I said, wait a minute. Why are you telling me good luck? He said, man, that brother deep, man. Like you gotta be on it. And so I remember turning in my first draft. We're going through the abstract process and trying to understand how do we, what are we going to focus on for our doctoral program? And I said something to me that I say to my doctoral students today. It's not about analyzing the ocean. It's not about analyzing the sand or even a handful of sand. It's about analyzing one grain of sand and being the first person to do that and bringing that scholarship to the world. And so in my first proposal to you, which was a very rough draft, you rejected it. Then you rejected it for the right reason, obviously. You saw where I was utilizing the word minority to refer to Black people. And you gave this great lesson to me that I've carried everywhere I've been since. And I would like you to explain why, in research in particular, we should not contextualize Black people as minorities in our citing of the data.
Sure. Well, prior to becoming a university professor, I was a language arts teacher. And so the root word of minority is minor. And we are not minor in terms of our population. Upwards of 85 to 90% of the world's population are people of color. So when we refer to any people of color as a minority, even though they may be smaller in number in a particular geographical location, everything has gone global. Telecommunications has gone global, business has gone global, politics is global, but our consciousness hasn't gone global. And so it would be inappropriate and unscientific to refer to any people of color as minorities. That's got to be the biggest psychological, spiritual, social, political power play in the history of planet Earth. So I always, you would be amazed at how many of my students I have to correct on that and remind them when I'm looking at their proposals or one of their papers, when they mention the term minority, I say, who are you referring to here? Mm-hmm. Because if you're referring to African Americans or other people of color, then this is inaccurate and unscientific. By the way, Dr. Ritchie, it is what I call these population politics, which I believe are undergirding and energizing a lot of the conservative backlash that we see today. It is known and understood in many of the conservative circles that white people, due to the browning of America, that white people are becoming more and more of a minority. And there's a heavy backlash against that. And so we have to be mindful of that as we see what's happening in our country playing out today.
Very well said. We got a few minutes left. And you and we're going to do this Egypt thing again. And I have the great opportunity to co-lecture with you. I want to make sure we put that up for those who are interested in joining us. We are dead serious about connecting the pieces of the puzzle that may seem out of whack. And much of this comes from our understanding of who we are. So this journey and this tour, as well as the education, I'm calling for anyone who identifies as African American, as Black, to come with us if they're able to. I will provide a lecture based on the lens of quantum physics and the advanced technology of the ancient Kemetic people. And Dr. Akua will bring it home with all of the rest, understanding the nuances of culture and the connection of this amazing culture. We had a great time last year, man.
Yes.
We had a great time. If I will provide a little context, you could provide some context, but give everyone some of the dynamics that took place last year during the lecture and the tour.
Sure. Well, for those who are interested in joining us, you can go to travelwithdrakua.com. That's travel with Dr. Akua, DRAKUA.com. But let me tell you, Dr. Ritchie, I have studied with, studied from, and traveled with some of the most outstanding Black scholars on planet Earth. Okay, so just know that up front. But what you brought to that tour last year is virtually indescribable because of your expertise as a quantum physicist. The things that you shared with us inside the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid, the things that you shared with us inside of the Ipet Isut and Shemai Ipet, the Luxor Temple and the Karnak Temple and so forth, your ability to decipher some of the different glyphs, you brought a whole different perspective because of your training as a physicist. And it added so much to our conversations, to our debriefing sessions. It was just absolutely amazing. And in addition to the fact that we got to sail the Nile and experience the culture of Egypt and learn the history and so forth, it was just phenomenal having you there. And we're looking forward to having you again this year.
Man, I'm at a loss for words. I talk for a living. The sentiment is mutual, and thank you for saying that, Dr. Akua. Means the world coming from somebody like yourself who's authentic and at the top level of this industry. And I will say this just in a quick note. I've been studying the JED lately and trying to understand some of the power nuances connected to the JED. And I've come to a hypothesis, and I'm going to explain it quickly. For those who are engineers or physics students, you can go back and research this. When you have a metal, and you can have just a sheet of metal, it can be copper, it can be silver, it can be gold, it can be a sheet of gold. And you put over that sheet of gold what's called a dielectric property. That dielectric property can be a crystal quartz, it could be glass, it could be a few things. Anytime you do that, you create what's called a plasmon field. And that plasmonic field is this very, very small electromagnetic field that exists as a wave, okay? But it only exists in that hyperlocalized area. But here's what happens. If you shine the proper nanometer light scale to that plasmonic wave, that plasmon then expands beyond the localized region, which means you will have what's akin to AC power, alternating current, based on the wavelength. Now, the wavelength simply needs to be larger than the quantized scale of what we would call particles, just quantized energy, the quantized energy of the plasmon. But the plasmon is automatically created when you put a dielectric property against metal. And all of a sudden, you have an energy field that only requires sunlight. And we've been able to prove this now in the laboratory. So that's something that I'm going to bring this year. Once again, Doc, tell people how they can check out the information. Join us during this tour. And man, selling the now, man, my gosh, that's a power in itself. That was a beautiful thing.
Yes, well, one of the things that I love about how you teach and how you lecture is you also demonstrate. So if there's any words that anybody didn't understand in that explanation, you always bring props and demonstrations and get the audience involved. And that's just one of the most amazing things about it. But for those that are interested in joining us, you can go to travelwithdrakua.com. Again, that's travelwithdrakua, DRAKUA.com. Now, we are up against a tight deadline with the second weekend in April. All fees have to be in by that time, but we would love to have those that would like to join us. There's only a small percentage of African Americans who have the opportunity to travel back to the motherland. And this is an absolutely transformational experience for all of those that are involved in it. It's not something that can be explained. It's something that must be experienced. So if you're one of those people that's been dreaming of going to the motherland, going to Egypt specifically your whole life, well, this is the time to do it. And who you go with makes all the difference to get the authentic history, the authentic culture, and the experience. It's so important who you go with. And so we would like to welcome you on that journey if you'd like to go with us.
Looking forward to it, Doc. As always, Dr. Akua, tell the family I said hello. I appreciate all you do, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings. All right. Remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.